think that Derek can talk because I think he's on like his other device that he can just hear us. But hi, Derek.
Hi, Derek.
You can't reply, but hello. Derek is in Connecticut and he's one of our partners. Anil is back and he was with us yesterday. He's someone new in the revenue share group with Keely, I believe. And he's been engaged. Hi, Anil. Nice to see you again. And I'm going to go ahead and give you co-host Haley so that you have that. And we are live on Workplace. So we are recording so we can use this later. So Haley, I'll send this off to you after, as always. We've got Candy coming in. I'm so excited, Candy. It's so nice to see you or hear you.
Hi there. How are you?
Yay. It's awesome to see you back on. Candy's been in moving mode and doing selling real estate, moving herself. She's been got a lot going on, and I'm super excited to see you back because for a while you were on like everything, and then I've been missing you. So I'm excited that you're here.
Oh, it's so good to be back. I miss you guys too.
And you're in for a good treat because obviously, you know, the value that Haley drops. And we've got Tiffany, who is a new partner of ours with Haley here in EXP Family Tree. And they're going to talk about some really great stuff. So I am excited for that. So I'm going to let you guys take it away since we're 1 minute after the hour. And we'll just keep adding people in when they join. And I'll also monitor the live chat. So if anybody asks questions, you guys, I'll let you know because sometimes they'll ask questions in the live stream. I'm going to go off camera for a minute and then I'll be right back. So you guys take
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. If you're live streaming, hello and welcome. And if you're here with us, we really appreciate you. As most of you know, I am Director of Operations for Carrie, and I do a lot of operations support within EXP Family Tree. And I am so excited to announce that Tiffany Lawson has now partnered with Carrie and I as an additional operations partner. So Tiffany is here today. Tiffany and I also do coaching together, and I'll let her introduce herself as well. But Tiffany is an extraordinarily strong and talented admin coach, which means if anybody who is listening, either in live stream or with us, if you have an admin, if you're looking to hire an admin, and you just want to know how to communicate with your current admin, Tiffany and I are here to help you. Tiffany has also been a real estate agent for many years and is an expert in holding people accountable. How do I know? Because I listen to her coaching calls, you guys. So she's here. We're going to talk about accountability today. Tiffany, introduce yourself. Welcome to the group. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here. So yeah, my name is Tiffany. I am born and raised in Florida. So I get a lot of comments about that and questions, especially about alligators in particular. It's just a weird topic. I don't know why, but it's important to everyone else. So I have been in real estate for about 10 years and I have been coaching for about 6. I have gone anywhere from the executive assistant role to director of operations. I've worked in residential, commercial, and property management. So I have essentially sat on every seat of the real estate bus you could probably make up. And I love it. So yeah, I focus a lot right now on admin coaching, right? Working with agents, working with admins, helping them take their team and their business to the next level. I thrive there. And with that comes a lot of things, especially accountability, right? And something that I have noticed about accountability is that those who need it don't want it. And so that's something that I really like to hone in and focus in on because I think it comes up in almost every conversation, most conversations, right? Or something around accountability, right? For the need of it or the want of it without even realizing. So I think the biggest thing in accountability that I really like to talk about and note is that when you think of accountability, what do you think of? Is it for you? Is it for someone else? I mean, Haley, what do you think? Whenever you think of accountability and what is it to you, do you think of accountability as far as being accountable to yourself or being accountable to others?
I think of both. I think it depends on, at least in my perspective, like if I have a personal trainer and I'm going to the gym, a couple times a week, I'm going to the gym for myself. I'm going to the gym and I'm holding that person is holding me accountable to my own personal goals of being healthy and, living a healthy and active lifestyle. However, when I think of accountability for my business, I think of somebody holding me accountable to help building help Carrie build her business, help Rich build his business. I think of all of the people that if I let them down, that impacts me greatly. So I think it's like it for me, it's just like split. So I think of, to answer your question, just depends if it's personal or professional.
Okay. That's a great answer because that's what I said first. Actually, no, I think at first I'd say, oh, well, I have to be accountable to others, which to me is not how it should work. I think if anything, if this is the beginning of your journey of accountability, right? Say you've never been accountable to yourself or to anyone else, and this is where you're starting, or at least now you really want to be purposeful about it. I think it's most important, firstly, that you have to be accountable to yourself. So then you can turn around and be accountable to others. And that really, that is such an important step in the process of being accountable, because there are so many things that, first of all, I don't think you can be accountable to others if you're not accountable to yourself first and foremost.
It's almost like you're saying, or what I'm hearing is self-leadership. You need to lead yourself and be accountable to yourself before you can lead others. Because we talked about, like Carrie and I have this conversation all the time about leadership. People think that you have to be in a leadership role with a leadership title to be a leader. And that is absolutely not true. We are all leaders the moment that we start adding value into someone else's life.
Yes. Yeah. And it's almost like, I don't know if you've thought about this from a coaching perspective, but as a leader, sometimes it's do as I say, not as I do. Right. And so that's really where we want to put the work in and reverse that, because we need to be the ones to show up for ourselves first before we can show up for anyone else. Right. I think it kind of goes into, like I talk a lot about burnout as well, right? Like I have burnt out probably twice. And I did that mostly because I poured into everyone else's cup before I poured into mine. Therefore, when my cup was empty, I can't show up well, and I don't show up well. Right. And so I learned some tactics that I kind of want to get into now, as far as how I worked through those things. First and foremost is I realized that I had no idea where my time was going. Right. And so, and you've heard me talk about this a lot. So time management and time blocking is probably my number one that I teach or coach or ever talk about in having a conversation, because it is truly so important and so eye-opening. The moment that you can realize where your time is going, how much time you're spending on certain things and certain aspects of your life, you will have so much more power to be able to go out and accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in knowing those things, right? And so in going into time blocking and time management, I think if you do not have a calendar or have a way in which that you organize your day, that's my first recommendation. And I always tell people, yes, it can be a little bit overwhelming trying to plan out a week, for example. So I always say, focus on today and tomorrow consistently, right? Because the idea is we want to be able to break the things down so that we can understand where our time is going and where we want to put our time, right? Or what we need to take away so we can add to. And so with focusing on today and tomorrow, I talk about 3 things in conquering your time. The first thing is to add in your personal time, or reward yourself with personal time that you currently don't give yourself first. That's the first thing that should go in your calendar. That's the first thing that you should give time to each and every day. I always like to tell people this is 2 hours a day. That's what I recommend. No, it's not 2 consecutive hours, because most of us don't have the ability to do that. So I always say Generally, it's the first hour after you wake up and the hour before you go to bed. I think those are the two easiest times that you can really pour into yourself and give yourself that time back, or as I like to say, pour into your cup so that you can pour into everyone else's.
Love that. Do you have now? So I guess one question that I want to follow up with as we're talking about time blocking,
Mhm.
as a coach, as a mentor, as a DOO and real estate agent, I have seen countless things on the internet of here's the perfect time blocking schedule. This is what you should be doing, waking up at 5 o'clock, doing the miracle morning, then you jump
Yeah.
into lead generation, then you jump into this and this, and then open houses and whatever. Everybody has an idea of what a perfect time blocking schedule looks like. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think there is going to be, at certain points, there are going to be perfect or scheduled times that you have. However, it does change over time, right? Because the thing about time blocking and time management is it's not an easy bake oven. You can't set it and forget it, right? That would be lovely if we could do that, but it's not that way. So you can create your schedule. So for me now, I've been working on it for 10 years. I can do my whole entire week. However, I consistently twice a day probably go in and adjust and change as I need to be, because as time goes by, as I grow, as things change, as the market shifts, my abilities and my responsibilities change. So I adapt to that consistently.
Mm,
So I think a schedule that you can have today might work this week, next week, the next month. However, over time, I don't think that's how it works, right? Because as we grow in our roles and responsibilities, our responsibilities change, right? And we adapt and we grow more into those things. And then we have leverage, right? And so where does that time go? Am I training someone? Am I taking something that takes me 5 hours a week off of my plate? What do I do with that 5 hours, moving forward? So it's consistently something that needs to be analyzed. Yes, I do believe there are times it will work. However, you consistently have to work on it.
yeah, I really love that. I think it's so important to give ourselves grace when it comes to being okay with restructuring our time. Because if it's not working for you, we don't have to stick to the blueprint that we have in our mind.
Right.
And sometimes our society, our culture, our real estate culture, they try to ingrain upon us that it has to be done this way.
Mhm.
And sometimes it doesn't work that way, especially like you said, if you have leverage, if the market is shifting, if your responsibilities are shifting. Hey, guess what? If you're a mom or a dad and you have kids and you want to make time for them and be purposeful, like Carrie mentioned, rewarding yourself. It's important that we have the discipline now so that we can have the freedom later. And also giving ourselves grace to shift our blueprint, right? There's many different paths to get to the top of the mountain. We don't have to be addicted to our path.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's why the first pillar, or the first thing I always talk about for people to work on, is that personal time. Because there are other aspects to that personal time that I like to get into, as far as that, maybe that hour after you wake up or that hour before you go to bed. Right. So and I've discovered this when I was in burnout. Right. And so this is where I've really created the structure around this. So I woke up and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to get back in the game. I want to do this, but I can't do it how I was doing it before. It didn't work. Right. And so in giving myself this time, which was very foreign, I didn't like doing it. I wanted to give my time to everyone else but me. I discovered that I, first of all, needed a hobby, or needed to just find something else to do that wasn't me sitting here teaching and coaching, or going out and selling houses, or this, that, and the other. Right. And so my number one rule in this personal time is that it has to be something that brings you joy. If it doesn't bring you joy, it's not really something that you will probably do consecutively, or you just won't do it at all. Right. You know, and I like talking about this part in particular because I have so many clients that are like, well, you know, I was going to go to the gym, but then, you know, this, that, and the other, and all these other excuses. And I said, well, guess what? The gym doesn't bring you joy right now. Oh, no, that's not. No, it is. Because if it did, you would consistently be going.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, and that's totally fine. Find something else that brings you joy. You can always go back to that. Maybe you'll have like some new wind and it'll be like, okay, I want to go back to the gym. That is totally fine. I think it's important to give ourselves that grace and really analyze, like, if I'm going to give myself some time, or if I'm going to pour into myself and do something that brings me joy, is it what I'm doing right now? Right.
Yeah. I want to ask people who are on the call if this resonates with you, because you said something earlier that I was like, my ears just really perked up. And you said that you were giving all of your time to other people. And so how many people on this call feel like all of your time is spent pouring into your clients, into your partners, into your family members, into your children, but you have none left over for yourself? Like, show of hands, or if you want to come off mute. Does anybody feel that way?
I've definitely been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's very depleting, especially, you know, as a recovering people pleaser. We think that bringing other people joy brings us joy, but at what cost? Are you, if it brings you joy, that's great. And are you depleting yourself in doing it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that. And then Carrie asked a question here too. She said, what brings you joy that rewards you for keeping to your schedule? What is your reward? If you don't have one, what can you create? Does anybody want to share? Candace said, I enjoy being in nature, hiking, picnic, camping. Love that. Anybody else want to share? Tiffany, what do you do?
Well, I think it depends on the day because mine changes quite a bit, right? So sometimes I like to read. Sometimes I like to, this is the thing about it too. It doesn't have to cost anything and it doesn't have to take you that long, right? So sometimes I really enjoy going to just meet someone and get coffee because, well, you got to think I work from home mostly, right? And so peopling is something that I enjoy. So whenever I can go out and people, that fills my cup. And I guarantee you that on the days that I go out and do things that bring me joy, I show up way better the rest of the day than I do if I just sit at home and sulk or, you know, do nothing that brings me joy, really. So I think that's why it's so important is if you are doing something consecutively because you are just in your head, you think that this is what you have to do, or this is just what everyone else does. I promise you, that's not how it has to be. You don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to do the things that don't bring you joy just because you feel like it has to be like a habit or a goal. There are other ways in which you can do those things. And I would do those first. Those are the first things I would, right? And then the second thing I always say, and you know, going into the time blocking and time management, are the second thing that you should be adding into your schedule or into your life are things that you do consecutively, the same day, the same time, every week, right? So for some people, it's I lead gen from 9 to 11 every single day, and that doesn't change. Right. Or maybe you have to go to a team meeting on Mondays at 9 a.m. for an hour every single Monday, every single week. Well, that's easy. Go ahead and put that in your time block, right? And then the third thing is usually everything else. Everything else, projects, meetings, showings, this, that, and the other. Those are really the last things that I ever schedule, right? And so, and I also think it's important in your schedule to give yourself a little bit of leeway, but schedule the leeway, right? Or maybe just have a little, you know, time slot. Maybe this is 30 minutes, maybe this is an hour, maybe this is your lunch. But that I really like to have as reflection time. How's my day feeling? How am I feeling? right? I think it's so important. I think sometimes we get stuck in this tunnel vision of work, 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 where we don't ever like take a step back and say, how's everything going? Like, how am I feeling? What do I want to accomplish today? What have I accomplished already? And then get back in, refocus, and keep going.
Yeah, love that. And I think that it's important that so I like that the second thing is putting the consistent things on your calendar, the meetings, your lead generation, your open houses, your activities that are going to help you to be productive and to keep your business going. Those are the things that we need to be putting in our calendar and that we're doing consistently, because time over task over time over task, you will see a result from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll really help you see, where are you showing up? What are you doing? Where's your time going? Right? Especially if we keep it in that focus of consistently working on today and tomorrow, because as you add those things on, it gives you that opportunity to reflect, right? And say, hey, last week I spent this many hours doing this. That's really not what I want to do. That's not something I should be doing. And then you can fix it moving forward, right? It gives you that transparency that is extremely important. Hey, I want to make more business. Maybe I should stop doing this, or maybe I need to take an hour off of this, and maybe I need to add this to my lead gen time or appointment time, this, that, and the other, right? So I think the transparency is just really important when it comes to that.
Yes, agreed. Awesome.
Yes, yes. So, does anybody have any questions? I usually get a lot of questions whenever I talk about calendaring, time management. I mean, I feel like I can just talk about it for forever.
Can you guys hear Candy?
Candace, we can't hear you.
We
I'm
can't
gonna
hear
mute
you and
you.
it's really fuzzy and windy or something,
Yeah,
but
we're gonna-
Can you hear me better now?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. So my biggest thing is where I'm fitting in like the creative mindset. So like where I'm thinking about where I want my business to go, or like going through my profit and loss, or things that are more admin like. So I'm having a hard time figuring out like, when do I schedule this kind of stuff, because it's important, and I need to be probably looking at my leads every day and my numbers. And so yeah, where do you usually talk about those kinds of things?
Yes, great question. Let me ask you, what times of the day do you feel that you show up most?
I would say in the morning time. So I usually get up 7 o'clock and do a lot of like my mindset things, positive affirmations. And then I usually do more of my lead gen at that time.
Yeah.
So usually morning before lunch. And then I'm also really like, I get another like, after lunch, I'm able to go again. So anytime either in the late morning or early afternoon.
Yeah. I always recommend stuff like that, especially if it's admin stuff, for example, stuff that you don't want to be doing right now. That's the time that I would do in your most productive time, only because when you're feeling unproductive, you're more than likely not going to do it.
And I think what's happening too is I'll look at my numbers and I'll say, oh my gosh, I have so far to go. And then if I do lead gen after that, it's like I'm not in the right mindset. So I'm having trouble figuring that out.
Yeah. And do you have like a hard stop, or do you have anything that's like, all right, right at 11, I'm pivoting and I'm going from lead gen to this?
I think I do. Most of my stuff is like that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. My best advice would be try it one day, maybe lead gen for an hour, lead gen for 2 hours, have a hard stop, try a little bit of the admin stuff, because how long is that taking you?
It's like I start it and then I get distracted, or I allow myself to get distracted with an email or something like a text message. And then I don't go back to it because I'm like, oh, well, I can think about that later.
Yeah. Well, then I think it's going to come to how bad do you want it, right? Or how bad do you want to get it off your plate at least? And so I recommend try doing it before lunch, fitting it in somewhere try doing that one day. And then the next day, try doing it after lunch and really like clock yourself, see how long it takes you real time. If you are more productive or you get more done in that morning time than you do in the afternoon time, then you know this is something I need to do before lunch. And can I commit to doing that for myself and my business? And then
Good question.
if you don't want to commit to it, then how can I have leverage so I don't have to do this anymore?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, Candace, are you in a place in your career where you might think about hiring leverage?
Well, and I'm on a team with Chrissy Peterson. And so we are looking to
Yes.
hire an admin person
Oh,
right
yes.
now.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there's things that, that we eventually probably will have that
Yeah.
person do. But yeah, I think it's like trying to kind of transition of doing all of it yourself and
Mhm.
leveraging. Oh,
Yeah.
And
love
some of
that.
the stuff you're talking about, Candy, is a little bit more like the administrative stuff that as an entrepreneur, you just have to do yourself, because looking at your numbers, looking at your leads, revisiting your goals, like those are really, really important things. And I talk about that a lot, which is like, you have to create space for that thinking time. And you
Mhm.
do some things in the morning, like your affirmations, etc., your mindset work. And that's all great. And at the same time, that isn't thinking time in the way of your goals, right? Or of your numbers, of your income, looking in your dashboard, reviewing where your leads are coming from. Like that kind of thinking time and strategy time is really, really important. I just wanted to add one thing, because Tiffany has asked you some great questions. I think these questions, are you committed to it? If you're not, you need to ask yourself, why am I not? Because I mean, it's really going to affect your business. Sometimes we have a hang up in our mind and we don't even realize what that is, and we have to dig into that. So those were really great questions. I actually do a lot of my thinking time on Sunday evenings, not necessarily in the summer because I'm busier in the summer, but in the other seasons. So basically 3/4 of the year. When I'm winding down and getting ready for my week, I'm looking at my calendar for the week. I'm making sure I know what's going on, setting myself up in a mindset of what I've got to focus on and be prepared and ready for. I look at my numbers, I look at my goals, and it doesn't take a long time, but it could be just an hour before I go to bed. And honestly, it's so well worth it, because it's not in the hustle and bustle of the week. And it's at a time where I know I'm not going to get interrupted, because nobody is calling me at night on Sundays, rarely. I might get interrupted by family, but that is what that is. So the later I do it, the better, because then I just eliminate that situation. I find if you do it more regularly, it takes less time. So at first it took me more time, but now because I do it more regularly, it doesn't take me as long. So now it might only be a half an hour on a Sunday evening. So that's just another perspective that it helps somebody.
that is helpful.
Yeah. And I like that you brought up the timing thing, because I think a lot of times when we add something new into our lives, whether that's a system or process or tool, in the beginning, it generally will take you 3 times the amount of time than it will over time after you've really like owned it, made it your own, and mastered it. So it's you have to put in that work in the beginning, so then you will have the reward of redeeming that time back that you've from the things that you've put into. So I think that's really important to note too. So it just might be a lot of work right now, doesn't mean it will always be that way.
Yeah. And also, Candy, I want to encourage you to think about different ways in which you can create this creative and be creative, and I guess cast your vision, get it out of your system when you're thinking about creative business mindset. What does that look like for you? Can you shift it around a bit? Some people it's journaling, some people it's meditating, some people it's actually scheduling a brain dump session with somebody where they can just cast the vision, and there's like an admin or an assistant, and they're like writing it all down, and then they go and execute on that. What does that look like for you? What actually feels good for you, right?
Yeah, journaling was the first thing I thought of, because it's like getting it off your mind. But yeah, I like that. And I think I will explore that more.
Yeah, because we also have to remember, like when you sit down and reflect, are you an internal processor or an external processor? And for me, I have some of the best ideas when Carrie and I are on the phone. Carrie will tell you, it's like, who knows, half an hour into our conversation, we're like, well, what if we do this? What if we create this? Oh my God, what if we do this? Like, and it just goes on and on and on. And it's like a 3-hour conversation. but that's how we both process. We externally process the things, and we both do brain dumping sessions. And then I will essentially track everything. And then I'll come back to Carrie a month later and be like, hey, are we still feeling this? Are we still wanting to do this? What does this look like for next quarter or next year? And this is how the most of our conversations go in building out the business. And what would have worked 2 months ago probably wouldn't work now, because we evolve and we shift and we're flexible.
Yeah.
Right, Carrie?
I have a comment that is in line with what we were just talking about. And it's like when we are trying to reflect and be creative, and I'm not talking specifically the numbers because I have to do better about that, but I want to chime in on how I feel the most creative. And it's a weird thing, but it's going to be different for each person. And because I have a crazy life with lots of kids and I get no time to myself, I have found that the time that I take to myself, whether it be a hot shower before I go to bed, or if I'm exercising, I always find that my body is the most relaxed and my brain is the most relaxed. And that's when ideas come to me and I clean out like cobwebs. And that's where I find my creative thinking.
Yes, girl, there is actually research done on how taking a shower is such a sensory, there's something to do with like the sensory of it, that a lot of people, like brilliant people, they say that they get their best ideas in the shower. And it's absolutely true, because we're not distracted. We're just thinking, and we're able to just be alone. And there's something about the water and like the temperature of the water, and it can be so therapeutic. Totally agree with that.
And actually, some of my best thinking, and I'm not in this mode as much as I was before, and I am getting back into it in the fall. So there's going to be some public accountability for myself on it. But when I was running and or walking, jogging, whatever I was doing on a consistent basis, and it was for a period of time, like I was doing it for longer than a half an hour at a time, I would be listening to podcasts or I would be listening to audibles, but I would find myself shutting that off after about halfway through. And because I was having all these ideas. So to your point, Joanne, I was like thinking of all these things. I need to do this. Oh, this would be great. Sometimes the podcast or the book would spark something. So I would shut it off and I would literally start talking to text to myself while I'm like jogging or running, because I don't want to forget those ideas. Because I would think of them and then I'd be done and then I'd forget like what I was thinking about. So I started to realize I needed to do something to save those ideas. So that is something too. So, being in nature, moving your body. So there's a chemical response. There is an actual chemical response in your brain when your body moves. And so creativity, focus, a whole bunch of things happen. And so there is also scientific evidence regarding that. So, maybe that's how you can get your creativity flowing. And then you can use some time, like talk to text or whatever, and then use some time to like put it down on paper or think about it a little bit more to create it into a strategy on a Sunday night or something like that. Those are all really great ideas. Thanks for sharing that, Joanne. I'm glad you're here.
Yes, sorry, I had to mute myself.
I love that. I think I'm in my prime at like 7:30 in the morning after I drop my son off to school in the car. I said, Haley, if you could please wake up at 4:30 and just listen to me talk, I promise, like, I just need you to just be there and listen. And so it's funny too, because I used to have an accountability partner, right? So for me, what that looks like is someone similar in business or like-minded or just goal-oriented, right? Those are the people that I go for and I cling to them and I make them my accountability partner, because I know that they are going to strive and want to conquer some things the same way in which I would. And so hopefully they live on the East Coast too. I call them in the morning and we just kind of brain dump together, and I love that. It's so nice. But I think it's also because I'm like a quality time kind of person too, so it's nice to have someone on the other end.
Yeah. As we were talking about recording our thoughts, how many people on the call do daily or weekly affirmations for themselves? Okay. For those of you who are currently writing, do you guys write them down?
I put them on my vision board.
Okay. Have any of you ever thought about recording your affirmations and then listening to them? That's uncomfortable, you guys. I know it is. It's uncomfortable, but here's the thing. It has been proven that if you need to get it out of your system, right? So you have affirmations, you get it out of your system, you write them down. But after you write them down, record yourself on your phone, reading them out loud, and then go back and every single day, listen to yourself. Listen to yourself talking through your affirmations. It is the most powerful thing. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, I started doing this because I too was really uncomfortable, but I was like, whatever, I'll give it a try. So I did this back last October. Last October, I did just 15 affirmations. I recorded myself saying the affirmations. Within 3 months, every single one of those affirmations came true. Just by me recording them and listening to them every single day. It was extraordinary. I would encourage you all to do that. And then if you are doing it consistently, share with me what happens, because it's really, really exciting and uncomfortable, but you get used to it.
I like that you listen to them, because I was taught to say them to yourself in front of the mirror and like look at yourself in the mirror while you're saying it, because that is weird, let me tell you. But I have found that the more it's kind of like a muscle memory, like the more you do something, the more you say something out loud, right? I think I am is like the most powerful sentence you can ever say. The more you do that, the more you say that, the more you feel it and believe it. And I think that's so powerful.
Our words are just powerful in and of itself. When we commit to something and we speak it, we write it down. It is so powerful. Our words, we have more power than we really realize. And when we commit to something, we absolutely need to hold ourselves accountable. And like Tiffany said, if you have someone else that can hold you accountable, an accountability buddy, I know that that sounds like elementary, but it's true to have someone who cares deeply enough about you and about your business that they're willing to share that time with you.
Yeah, I think having that other perspective is really nice too, because we get in our head and we get in our own thoughts, and then we believe it's this one way or this one way only. And then sometimes it's just really nice to have someone to say, well, what if it's this, or what if it's that, and challenge you. So that's what I love about accountability. But something else I wanted to get into about accountability that I find really interesting, that I come across quite a bit, is a lot of people, I guess some people, maybe not a lot, but have a problem with just starting with the accountability to themselves. And what I have found is sometimes we build this anxiety or worry around the things that we want to accomplish. And to me, anxiety is there because it's something that we don't feel prepared for, right? Like, it's something that we're unsure of, or we're just not really quite there. And so I think around that too, I think the best way to go about being accountable to things is to take the things that you want to do and break them down. I never was able to tackle or get through any task or responsibility if I didn't break it down, because I used to be a perfectionist, believe it or not. And because I was a perfectionist, it hindered me from making progress. And so I have found, so for example, I put together an operations manual for a team twice, actually. And what I have found was I was so overwhelmed for the need to do it, because an operations manual can be a lot. There's a lot that can go in there. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of things I need to do, a lot of things I need to put together. So because I had anxiety and worried about accomplishing this goal as a whole, I never started. It took me a long time to just start. And so I found that the best way for me to start anything is to take the whole, break it down, and pick one thing. And just focus on that one thing. And until I accomplished that one thing, I didn't do anything else. And that was extremely powerful because it allowed me to put the perfectionism aside. Well, where I should probably do this, or I need to do that, or no, wait, hold on, I need to do this. I had like 3 notebooks full of just things that I wrote down, and I never started. I think it took me like 3-6 months before I actually could start. And so then I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do a table of contents, and I'm only going to put 5 things on there. And then from starting that table of contents, right, because that was my task, my operations manual, from there, I just picked one thing. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this one thing, and I'm going to give myself an hour, and I'm just going to start. I'm going to open up my Word or my whatever, wherever I kept it. And I said, I'm going to just write down this one process, and that's all I'm going to work on accomplishing. And after I accomplish that, then I'm going to focus on the next thing I want to tackle. So does
Love
anybody
that.
have any crippling anxiety or worry, or maybe there's something that you forever want to accomplish and you just haven't taken that step?
Yes, absolutely. They are everything from a formal, pretty listing presentation, which I think, my listing presentation is getting it done, but I want a pretty one. And then like buyer forms and seller forms that help explain all the things that I have to pick up the phone to do and text to do. Informational type packets that will, in the long run, save me time.
And so it's holding you back because they're not pretty. Is that what you said?
Well, the listing presentation, it's not holding me back because I'm thriving without it. It's something I just want to elevate myself for when I'm making those steps to take my business to the next level, higher price homes, those sorts of things.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, are you trying to create this from scratch, or is this something that you've started but just left it there?
There's plenty of resources that I'm comfortable using. Canva, I'm proficient in Illustrator. I have the resources. I just don't prioritize the activity to start it and get it done. I've researched and looked. I haven't landed on one that I loved. And the ultimate thought is that no matter what I choose, it's going to require a ton of work to make it exactly what I want.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important too that if this is something that you really want to do for your business, I would also give yourself a deadline. I would say, I'm going to do this by this date. And then from there, right, you can go into like your calendar or whatever, and you can say, okay, in order for me to complete this by this date, I need to put this much time into today, and then this much time into my week. And then strategically say, okay, this week I'm going to do the first page or my bio or, whatever it is that you want to add into it. And then I wouldn't do anything else until you do that.
Okay.
And
Thank
also
you.
remember, Joanne, it doesn't have to be perfect, because even if you make it perfect in a month from now, and 6 months from now, when the market changes again, or something evolves, you're going to want to change it again. So what
that's
is
such
it?
a good point.
Yeah, there's no such thing as perfect, but what you can do is you can start. And you know what starting something does? It actually creates momentum. It's like if you're standing on top of a hill and you just roll the ball down the hill, what happens? It kind of goes slow, and then it goes faster, 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 right? And then it's like a torpedo. That's what we do when we start something. So I would say to you, if you were a coaching client of mine, I would say right now you're stuck in paralysis by analysis. Stop focusing on it being perfect. What are the top 3 things that you're trying to achieve with creating this listing presentation? Okay. What's the number one thing? Just go do that one thing today. Just get yourself in a momentum. And when you get yourself in a momentum, that's when the confidence comes. And then your excitement comes. And then the next thing you know, it'll be halfway done. And then that's like the sense of completion, of the sense of just knowing that you started it, that feeling inside of you, that is going to propel you to do it again tomorrow. If you could just accomplish a little bit today, you'll accomplish a little bit tomorrow and a little bit the next day. And sooner rather than later, it's going to be done.
I see what you mean. And I agree. I think just getting that feeling of okay, so I set my goal small, but I achieved that goal and it feels good to achieve it. So start with
Yeah.
maybe the part that is yeah. Okay.
Can you just
Thank you.
start today? What commitment can you make, Joanne? What commitment, what actionable item can you commit to doing today for this listing presentation?
Yeah, just committing to a format that I can use on Canva, or that I can buy from like Pinterest or Fiverr or something like that. Just searching for one that looks pretty, that I know I could add my colors to and add my picture to, like that.
Perfect. You're committing to that today. I'm going to text you or email you later today and check in. And I want you to email me or send me a screenshot of the one that you're going to use. Can you do that?
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank
Good.
you.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
I'm
I'm
going to jump
holding
on
you
the call
accountable.
now because I have homework.
Awesome. Thanks, Joanne.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Joanne.
Awesome.
I
Anybody else? Thoughts, ahas?
Very joyful moment for me because I'm watching two amazing coaches coach you guys. And usually I'm the one doing this. So this is like super exciting for me. So you guys are doing amazing. You're just awesome. And so who else has something that they might want to commit to? Because I think that is a great place to always end this call so that we leave with an intention and something that we can execute and use this group for accountability when we do it. So if there's anybody else that wants to say, you know what, I just got to get this one thing done, or I'm committing to this, I want to start this. We'd love to hear that. And in the meantime, I also just wanted to share, with you all that, if you need some more accountability or want some more accountability, we can create some accountability groups and things of that nature. We just need to know who is interested in that. So you can always reach out to Haley, Tiffany, and I, find us in work chat, email us. You hear from us all the time. Let us know what you guys need and what you would actually take advantage of, because we want to create these spaces, but we obviously need to have people committing to them in order for it to make sense to do it. So I just wanted to share that as a side note.
Yep. And I'm going to share Tiffany's information in the chat here. And the reason why I want to do that is because Tiffany is with EXP now, you guys, which means that if anybody is looking for some accountability, if anybody's looking for a coach or looking to hire admin, like I said earlier, or just to have who's looking to have just a fierce conversation or understand how to better communicate. Like Tiffany is amazing at doing that. So I want you to be able to reach out to her.
Thank you. Yeah. And I can't do it without anybody, right? So I'm just like the rare breed who wants to be accountable and wants to keep everyone accountable to their things and help them accomplish as much as they can. So yes, I'm definitely here and open and available and ready.
Awesome.
Hey, speaking of that, and I was just thinking about this for Joanne's purposes. If we all have some things that work really well for us, as far as checklists, as far as presentations in our collaborative group, we should be sharing those things. And a way that you could do it is just email it to Haley or I, because we also have a resources area in which we could post these things as examples. And then let people go and take those and run with them. If people are willing to do that, if we all do that, we're all going to get something and we're going to give something. And so, we'll figure out ways, or, if somebody needs something, email and reach out to us, and we'll go to our group and say who has something that we can share with somebody, so that we don't have to recreate the wheel, which is the whole point of being part of a collaborative group.
Love that.
Awesome. Any final thoughts? Any final ahas that anybody wants to share? Awesome. Well, we appreciate you, Tiffany. Thanks for coming in. One thing that Tiffany and I are going to be doing monthly is Tiffany and I will be doing either a Tuesday or Wednesday call with Carrie every single month. And we'd like to really focus it on tactical strategies, either for your admin or for yourself, things that Tiffany and I experience as admin that we can share with you. So it'll be very tactical, very strategic, and it'll be based around the admin knowledge that we can bring to you, because our minds think a little bit differently than agents, and that's perfectly fine. We want to be able to open it up and to be a resource to all of you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys very, very much for being with us today. And we are here if you need anything as a resource, both professionally and personally.
Awesome. We had a good amount of people viewing live. There was no comments, but views, so that's great. So thanks to those of you watching live on Workplace as well. And just remember, we have this live stream, so you can go back and watch this if you want to, or if there's somebody that missed this that you really believe should hear this, tag them in that post, or you know, let them know so that they can watch it. Thanks you guys for being here. We appreciate you guys are awesome. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.